There it is. Okay. Sorry. All right. So let's hop back in real quick. So yeah, there was a period of time where I hated going to work because I had the wrong team in place. And I'd pull up to the office and I'd be like, oh man, she's here. She came back to work. Or I'd see them in the office. I'm like, man, she's here. So let me get back in here, talk to you guys a little bit. I had to learn to get the right people in the right seats. All right. And there was a period of time where I had to get over the fear of letting people go. Like I was averse to conflict, and I kept the wrong people for too long because I was afraid to let them go. Okay. I take hiring and firing very seriously, but coming into the office and being afraid, I had to feel like I didn't feel right. I felt like this is my agency. Like, why should I feel like crap coming in the office? Okay. And so I had to get over that fear. I had to learn how to do it. I had to learn how to have the right conversations. I had to learn how to let people go. And it was hard. Okay. Because I've had 25 people work for me in 17 years. Okay. It's a lot. And I want you to understand that that's totally normal. All right. And I've had some crazy stuff happen. I've had some people in my office. I've had over my career, I've had employees threaten other employees. I once had a woman walk up to another woman and go, if you ever do that again, I'm going to kick your ass. Okay. And these are two women, and I'm out on a sales call, and I get a call from the one being threatened in tears. And she's like, I need you to come back to the office because I'm currently being threatened right now. I once had somebody threaten me. Okay. Now I just let them go. But I once had somebody leave their key in my mailbox with a note that said, hey, Matt, I quit. I have to move to Texas tonight. I was like, all right, bye, Megan. You know, I once had somebody come back to work after I fired them. Like they'd forgot that they were fired, and I was on a sales call and I saw them come into the office, and I was like, what the heck? So I had to go handle that. I once had an employee come up to me and say, Matt, either she goes or I go. And I know that sounds like it would be an easy decision, but the person doing the threatening was my office manager who ran my entire operation. And the one that she wanted to leave was someone that I had to fire, that I was planning on firing later that week. It was a really tough, I couldn't be left alone with someone who wasn't gonna be able to do the job. She put me in a really tough spot. Okay. The good news is over the past 5 years, I've had 3 employees. Now I have a book of 4,200 policies, and I run it with 2 people. There's only 3 of us in my agency. Okay. So we have some stuff figured out. We're very, very efficient. So today I'm going to give you guys some of my best stuff. Okay. At the end of this, you're going to get a link. I'm going to send you to a link. You're going to throw your name and email in there, and you're going to get a bunch of stuff. If you already have the agency launch class, it's in there, but this is all going to be consolidated for you. It'll be right at your fingertips. Okay. So that is going to be coming. You guys are going to get my interview questions. You guys are going to get some job postings. You're going to get like an employee review, so you can do reviews. You're going to get a questionnaire that you can give your team so you can get to know them better, so that you can reward them properly. Like you're going to get an incident report so that if you get threatened, you can write them up. Okay. So I'm going to give you all kinds of good stuff. All right. So I have made all the mistakes for you. And so I want to share with you some stories and some best practices to help you out. All right. So let me go back here real quick. See if we can do this again. All right. So hiring is an imperfect science. All right. We're dealing with human beings and people. All right. Everyone that I ever hired, I thought could do the job. I'm always excited when it comes to when I make a hire. I think they're going to do well. And on the first day, I'm stoked when they come in. But a lot of times on like the 4th or 5th day, I'm like, oh, I don't think they have it. You know, so I want to talk to you guys a little bit about what the foundation of what my practices are for building a team. And then we're going to get into some interview questions. Okay. So the foundation. So let's talk first. Like, we are a systems-based business, right? So like, you have a system to sell life insurance, and you have a system to sell commercial. You got a system to work your internet leads, right? You got a system for your NOCs. Like, we are a systems-based business. Your most important system is your team. All right. I call it your operating system. And I love this quote: every system is perfectly designed to get the results that it gets. So the numbers that you are producing in your agency are a result of the systems that you have in place. So if you wrote like 8 life policies last year, that's what your life system is producing. Okay. If you wrote 100 life policies last year, you have a very different system. Okay. So let's talk about how to get the right people hired. All right. So the places that I have found my last 3 people have really been through Indeed and LinkedIn Jobs. Okay. So LinkedIn Jobs is where like professionals hang out, right? Like, you're not going to get a Walmart greeter who has a LinkedIn profile. So LinkedIn Jobs has been a good place for me, and Indeed is good. The other one, I know Farmers endorses Ideal Traits, and that's a good place to do it too. Okay. Now, when it comes to interviewing, when you find people to interview, I want to talk about some interviewing questions that have been good for me. Okay. How many of you have had a hard time finding good salespeople? Like, everybody, right? Finding good salespeople is really hard because everyone thinks that they can sell. Okay. But they really can't. Here are the 3 things that I've built my whole really culture and productivity behind. All right. There are 3 things. You guys probably know these things, but I want you to put a little bit more stock in them. All right. So the first one is to set expectations, or to set measurable expectations. All right. The second one is you've got to train them. Okay. And the third one is the most important one, is you have to hold them accountable. Like, if you can do these 3 things really well, you will find the right people and they will perform admirably for you. Okay. But you got to do these three things right. I had to learn how to do all of these things right. And this is kind of the base of what we're going to be talking about today. Okay. So real quick, I'll tell you a quick story. So my wife owns a business like I do. She owns a small medical practice and she has 2 employees. Okay. And over the past 6 months, she had to turn over her entire staff. All right. And when the first person left last August, we did a big job search and we used Indeed. All right. And we got like 100 resumes on a Friday afternoon. And we booked 20 interviews for Monday. So we interviewed 20 people. We found somebody that we loved. Okay. We hired her. She lasted 2 weeks. Okay. So we did it again. We put another posting out. We combed through another 100 resumes. We did 20 more interviews. We found someone else that we loved. She lasted 2 months. We had to let her go. She couldn't do the work. We had to do it again. 100 resumes, 20 more interviews. We found somebody that we loved, and she is still there. But what I want you to understand is, like, this is not abnormal. Okay. It's not abnormal to go through 3 people to find one. Okay. I think when you're a newer agent, you expect to hire someone, you expect to have them stick, but they don't. Okay. Especially if you're keeping the wrong people. Okay. And that's a problem that I had for a while. I kept people for too long when they should have been gone. I wasn't doing the third part of that. I wasn't holding them accountable. Okay. So I want to talk about how to identify good salespeople, because this can be tricky. All right. So I'm going to go back to my screen share real quick. And we're going to go. Oop, I didn't get through there. All right. So I'm going to go through some of my favorite interview questions. So to find a good salesperson, this is the way I've found good salespeople versus people who think that they could sell. All right. So have you ever been in sales? What were your expectations? And did you hit your goals? All right. Good salespeople know their numbers. All right. So if you have someone that's been in a sales position, and I don't care what they've sold, I don't care if they've been in the industry, if they've worked at a bank and had to open new accounts, if they had to open new, accounts at the T-Mobile store, or they sold paint at Kelly Moore, I don't care. As long as they had a goal that they needed to hit, this is where you want to kind of get into these questions during the interview. So what were your expectations for sales? A good salesperson, for example, let's say someone worked at the T-Mobile store and they say, hey, and you ask them, what are your sales goals? They say, well, I needed to open 20 new accounts a month. How many did you open? And if you get someone that says, you know what, I averaged 23.5 a month. Like, that is someone that you want to pay attention to, because good salespeople, we wear our numbers on our sleeve like a badge of honor, right? Like, how many policies you sold this month. You know how many you sold last month. You know how many you sold last year. This is like the fuel that gets us paid, right? So we know what our numbers are. A good salesperson knows what their numbers are. If you get someone that doesn't know their numbers, or they're guessing, that's a red flag. Okay. So I once interviewed someone who worked at Allstate, and I said, hey, how many policies did you sell last month? She said 41. How many did you sell the month before? 33. How many the month before? 29. I said, great. This was on the phone. And then I asked her, I said, when you come in and I meet you face to face, I want to see proof of those numbers. And she brought them in. She brought off like some report. She laid them out in front of me, and I hired her on the spot. Okay. So if you get a salesperson that knows their numbers and they can prove those numbers, that is the best way that I've determined with a greater amount of success that they can sell. All right. Because what's Mike Tyson's quote, right? Does anyone know Mike Tyson's famous quote? He said, we all have a plan until we get punched in the face. All right. As a salesperson, I think this directly relates to being in sales. Like, we've all been punched in the face, and you want to get somebody who can take those punches and go back. You got to have thick skin. You got to be able to take the no's, and you have to have a short memory. Okay. So that's how we're trying to identify good salespeople. Okay. The next question that I like is, what's the last thing you learned and how did it affect your life? You want to surround yourself with people who are going to help make your agency better. And I'm a lifelong learner. Okay. I read a lot of books. I listen to a lot of podcasts. All right. We can learn anything we want these days. It's at our fingertips. There's YouTube out there, how to do this, how to do that. And so if you can identify somebody who is learning, I don't care what they're learning. It doesn't have to be about the job. If you got someone that maybe is learning a new language, or maybe they're learning how to be a better parent, or maybe they're learning just something else to make themselves better, these are the people we want to surround ourselves with. You want a team of people who are constantly getting better. They're going to take your direction better because they want to learn. Okay. They're not going to come with these preconceived notions that they know how to do it already. Okay. And an example there is, a few years ago, I had a woman that worked for me, and she's the one that brought BombBomb to me. She said, hey, Matt, have you ever heard of BombBomb? And I said, no, what's that? She said, it's a video email platform. I said, tell me more. She said, well, it's a great platform. It's a way for you to get in front of people in a different way. It'll get you noticed. People will open your emails more, will sell more. And it's a great way to be in front of our current clients. So I deployed it. And it's something, you guys know I'm a big proponent of BombBomb. I use it every day, and it changed my agency. This came from an employee of mine. All right. And so those are the kind of people that we want to identify. Like, how are they going to sit at their chair, and how are they going to help you make their job easier? Okay. I really like that question. This last one is my wife's favorite. Does this job seem like a good fit to you? This is what you ask at the very end. At the end of after you've asked all your questions and they've given you all their answers, and they've asked you all the questions that they need to ask you, you sit down and you ask this question and you wait. You say, okay, does this job seem like a good fit for you? And you pay attention to the next 1 to 3 seconds. Okay, this is a little psychological game. If you get someone that's jumping out of their chair and they are stoked. They're like, oh my God, yes, this is exactly what I want. I love insurance. I love to sell. I want to work in a small agency. I want to help you get better. If you get someone that's really, really excited, that's a green light. Okay. I once had somebody answer this question. I said, does this seem like a good fit to you? And they waited way too long, and they kind of looked up and they looked away, and they're like, well, yeah, like that's a bad sign. Like they don't want to work there. They're just looking for a job. Okay. So I really, really like that last question. Okay. So those are 3 questions. You guys are going to get the rest of my questions in the download, but those are the 3 that have really helped me identify the people that I have in my space today. Okay. All right. So I want you guys right now to think a little bit. I would ask you you can close your eyes if you want to, but I want you to imagine we're going to talk about training. How do we train these people? What are we going to train them to do? Because then once you have the people in your agency, the first 90 days is really important. Okay. Now we're getting into the training part. You have to train your people. Okay. So picture yourself, you're out at lunch, you're with a mortgage broker, things are going well, you're trying to build a relationship with them. Okay. And you get a text, and it's from your office. Okay. And it says, good news. We just closed a household with 5 policies, 3 autos, a home, and an umbrella. And you have a life appointment next week. Like, this is what you're aiming for. This is what you want your team doing when you're out and about. Okay. Imagine that you're in your office and your phone is ringing off the hook. Okay. And you don't have to answer it. Right. Because you've trained your team to take care of that. Because I haven't answered a phone call in my office in years. Okay. We have to teach our people how to do the job that they're going to do. Okay. So I'm going to show you your new 3-word job description. I even put fireworks on it for you. This is what I want for you. I want you to market. I want you to sell, and I want you to delegate everything else. Okay. Like, that's it. And this took some time for me to learn, but that's essentially what I do. I market my business, I sell policies, and I delegate the rest. Okay. So let me tell you a story real quick. I'm going to go back here. All right. So this is a story. When I was a new agent, I had a mentor. And I handpicked him. He was in my district. Okay. And his name was Jim. And Jim had like the good hair, right? He had like the 1,000,000-watt smile. He wore a suit and tie. Like, he was what I wanted to be. He looked like a business owner, but he was only like 18 months ahead of me. Okay. And I rolled up on Jim one day. I said, Jim, you are going to be my mentor. And he said, okay, Matt. So I went to his office one day and I was kind of shadowing him, and he goes, all right, here's what I do for quoting and selling. And he had an assistant. His assistant's name was Catherine, and Catherine was actually his sister. And he walked up to Catherine, and on a piece of paper, he had everything he needed to work up a quote. He had a prospect. He got the name, driver's license, birthdays, all this stuff. He goes, Catherine, I need you to work this up for me. And he gives it to Catherine, and she goes, okay, Jim. And she goes and she works up the quote. We go back into his office, and 10 minutes later, she drops it on his desk. She goes, here you go, Jim. A couple of things I noticed is they have 100, 300. We quoted them at 250, 500, like you asked. They have 3 cars and 2 drivers, so they don't need K5. So he had trained her how to quote the way that he would quote. Okay, so now he has the packet and the proposal to go do the sale. Okay, he trained her how to do that. He goes out next day, closes the sale, comes back, he closes it, comes back, he drops the check on Catherine's desk, and he goes, hey, we just closed Mr. Smith. Can you convert this, please? She goes, okay, Jim. She converts it. She gets on the phone with the client. She introduces herself. She says, hey, Mr. Smith, I'm Catherine. I'm the office manager here at the Cummins Agency. I'm going to convert, I'm going to turn your quotes into policies. I'm going to set up your billing. I've got your first payment. If you have any questions, let me know. If you need anything at all, you call me. Okay. If you need to add a card, if you have a question about a bill, if you have a claim, I'm your girl. Okay. And I watched all this happen and I was like, oh my God, that is so brilliant, because Jim is training his new clients to not call him. Okay. Jim's done. He did his job. Now, Mr. Smith knows to call and talk to Catherine. So he's removed himself from the servicing, which I thought was just brilliant. Okay. So I took that into play, and I haven't done a quote in my agency in years, because that's what I do. I come in, I'm like, hey, can we quote? I've trained my team to quote commercial too. Like I got a commercial risk. Here are the 8 things we need. Can you work up this restaurant? And Meg in my office will work it up. She drops it on my desk. She goes, you're ready to go. Like, this is the kind of work. This allows me to do what I am best at, which is market and sell. And I train my team to do the rest. Another quick story is I worked in an agency years ago with a guy named Stuart, and we were both agents and we shared space. This is when we were allowed to share office space with other agents. And one day I'm in my office and I hear Stuart storm out of his office, and he goes, all right. He goes, I'm never going to take a billing phone call again. And he points at another employee. He goes, Susan, you are my billing expert. Every phone call about a bill goes to Susan from now on. And I love this for 2 reasons. One, he was so mad. It was entertaining. Like, I was laughing, but he was right. He shouldn't be on the phone with billing for an hour and a half over a 2-day period. You know, all that stuff gets delegated to your team. Okay. And that's how I learned to delegate. And that is what has allowed me to run my agency the way that I want to run it. Okay. What's up, Brian? I sell all lines. Okay. What do you sell? All lines?
Yeah. What I'm saying is, do you kind of just answered it with the delegate part. Meaning, I'm trying to not be actually selling an auto and renters myself.
Yeah.
I got to get out of that, that way. So I guess that's where I was trying to word that. Are you involved in it? It sounds like, no, you've gotten out of that.
Yeah. I have a producer in my office, and like, I sold home and auto for 12 years, and I was kind of like, all right, I've sold enough home and auto. And so Monty in my office, all the stuff goes to Monty for home and auto in my office. All that stuff goes to him. I want to be selling commercial in life, so that's kind of the way I'm geared right now. Okay. So, but I will do some, if a request comes to me, I'll go and work a deal. And like, I got someone that came to me who I know, who's like the head of a networking, group here in town. And he came to me, he's like, Matt, will you look at my stuff? And so Meg worked up the quote yesterday, and I'm going to close it, so, yeah, that's a good question. So now the question, like, how do you get a Catherine? How do you get someone to do this? When it comes to training new people, when you hire a new person, at least for me, like, my role in the agency has to change for a period of time, because I've just hired someone new who's in that seat who has no idea what they're doing. Okay. And so I have to pretty much stop my marketing and selling to get them up to speed. It's my responsibility. Okay. I'm going to give them everything that I'm going to teach them everything that I know to be successful. And how did I do that? Well, the one slide that I'll show you, another slide right now. And I think you guys probably know this, but get back in here real quick. So there's your market, sell, and delegate. And you can't have any of that until you train. Okay. So learn, do, and teach, right? That's really simple. Actually, I stole that from my wife in the medical. That's what they taught doctors in the medical field. You learn one, do one, teach one. Okay. So in the beginning, when I was starting my career, I had to learn how to do everything. I did everything in my agency. I didn't hire someone for 2 years when I first started. Okay. So I learned how to quote. I learned how to convert. I learned all the service numbers. I learned billing. I learned claims. I did my own payroll. I bought my own QuickBooks. I did my own tax. I did everything. I ran to the bank. I did everything. Okay. So once you learn it and then you do it, then you can just teach it away. Okay. I like that. It's simple. It makes sense. And it's something that I've done my whole career. So when you're training people, you have to be present for them. And now I micromanage the heck out of my people in the beginning. I'm training every day. So every phone call that comes in is a training opportunity. Okay. Every email that comes in is a training opportunity. The things that I train my people, if you think about the kind of stuff that comes into your agency every day, we really only get like out of 100 phone calls, I'll bet like 80 or 90 phone calls fall under like 4 or 5 different things. I need a quote. I need to add a car. I have a question about my bill. I need a cert. Like there are like 4 or 5 things that our team does that occupy 80%, of their time. Those are the things you want to train first. For me, I was always training quoting and converting first because we are constantly writing new business. And so I'm always training quoting the way I want them to be quotable. I teach them how to look at a competitor's deck page. You got to teach them product. So I teach them how to quote. Once it's done, teach them how to convert, set up the billing and all that stuff. So whatever's being done most in your agency are the things that you want to train first. Okay. I know everything that's happening in my agency. Okay. We have a small space. There's only 3 of us here. My door's open most of the time. And so there was an incident when Meg first started a couple of years ago. It was funny. She was on the phone right outside my door and I heard her take a call and she said, hey, Mr. Johnson, what's that? You have water in your basement. And so I stop what I'm doing. And I'm like, oh shit. She goes, what, you think it was a slow leak? And I'm like, oh no. So all these red flags are going up, right? And I hear her go, yeah, that should be covered. And I just drop everything. And I have a little whiteboard here somewhere and I'm writing frantically on the whiteboard. I'm like, that's probably not covered. And I run out and I kind of shove it in front of Meg's. I'm like, Meg, that's probably not covered, And she goes, Mr. Johnson, can you please hold? And she puts him on hold. And I walk her through how to have the rest of that conversation. So I'm always active. I'm always training. The goal is to train them really hard in the first 60 to 90 days so that you can slowly, let the leash out. And eventually they're doing everything and they're completely autonomous. And that's where I've gotten my team now. But you really have to put the work in. You have to train them really hard in the first 90 days. Okay. Now, the last part I want to talk about really quick is how to hold people accountable, because this can be one of the toughest things. And the easiest way to explain that is through sales. Everybody that's ever worked for me has had to put policies on the books. It's the only way that I think that we can scale and scale faster, grow faster. So everyone that's ever worked for me, 20 policies a month is kind of my baseline. Okay. So holding accountable is probably one of the toughest things to do. So when you bring someone in and you want to get them to 20 policies a month, I scale them up. So say in your first month, I only want you to get 5. Okay. And the next month, we're going to get you to 10. Then we're going to get you to 15. And then we're going to get you to 20. And once you train somebody that can get 20 policies a month, like that'll be their floor ideally. And then you can continually try and get them higher. Maybe you can get them to 25, maybe you can get them to 30, but holding them accountable is really important. So, let me get back into my screen here. I've got a little graph I want to share with you real quick. So here's a timeline that I worked up. Let's say that, so what they're expected to do the first month is 5, the next is 10, 15, and 20. If you've got someone that's on pace and they do 6 the first month, then they get to 12, and they get to 17, then they get to 22, that's what you're aiming for. Okay, that is a successful onboarding of an employee that's going to help you grow your business. Okay. If you have someone that's like this, though, there are some conversations that need to be had. So if they only write 2 the first month, maybe they get to 4. At the second month, if they've only written 6 policies after 2 months, we're going to have a conversation. And at this point, I'm going to own it. I'm going to think that that's something that I didn't do for them. So I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach and I'm going to sit them down. I'm going to say, hey, we're trying to get you to 20. You did 2 and then you did 4. What are we missing here? Like what have I not provided to you? Okay. You should be tracking all of their activity along the way. How many quotes are you doing? How many outbound calls are you making? Tracking their activity is really, really important for trying to get a salesperson to be successful, because we need to know what they're doing. You have to find out where the problem is. Okay. So if there needs to be some additional training, maybe they're not following up enough. Maybe their script is off. Maybe they don't know how to close. These are all the things that you can continually work with them on. So you want to continually train them. If after the 3rd month then they write 6, then you have a different conversation. You're like, look, I've given you everything that I know how to do to become a successful salesperson, but something's not working. If we can't get you to the number that we need to get you at, like, I'm going to have to look for someone else. And once you have that conversation with someone, a lot of times people will just quit. And that's okay, because they're doing you a favor. It's really expensive to onboard new people. You guys know this, right? So you can't have someone like this and keep them. Okay, you can. There are agents that do, but it's going to completely stunt your growth. And you are saying that you're telling them that this is acceptable. Okay. When it's really not. You have to get them to the numbers, or else you're not holding yourself accountable at that point. Okay. So you have to have the conversations. I once had a woman who quit after about the 3rd month on something like this. And she said, "Man, I'm not sleeping at night. She's like, these numbers are all I think about and I can't do it." And so she quit, and I thanked her. I said, "Thank you." I was like, this isn't for you. I appreciate you coming to me, but you can't keep someone like this month after month after month, because you're spending thousands of dollars a month for someone that's underperforming. Okay. And like I said earlier, it might take you 3 tries to get one person. If you get this person, you got to get them out. Okay. And the best way to do it is to have measurable expectations. It's the easiest way. You should never fire someone and have it be a surprise, which is why these conversations are really important to have. Okay. If you fire someone after the 3rd month here, like, they should see it. They should know that it's coming, because they know what the goals are. They know what the expectations are, and they know they're not hitting it. Okay. So if you can do all of these things, you will build the right team. Okay. So if you can set expectations, if you can train, and if you can hold them accountable, this is what you're going to get the team that's going to allow you to realize the things that you got into this business to do, which is to have more freedom, have more money, have more joy. And you're going to be living the life that you want to be living when you first opened your door. But this is the real work that needs to come into play so that you can realize these dreams. So, the last thing I would tell you for holding accountable that I've done in my agency that's been helpful is, if you can make goals for your team public, and I don't mean like public, maybe in your general waiting area, maybe you have a break room or you put it around the corner or something like that. If you put people's names and goals up on a whiteboard, okay, and you say, we all have to do 20 policies a month, and you've got 3 people up there, and you have their goals written down. And every time they write a policy, they get to go to the whiteboard and they get to update their numbers. Okay. Like, I have always loved tracking my numbers. I'm a competitive guy. I like to be on the top of leaderboards and things like that. And I love seeing those things. You want to find people that feel the same way. Okay. You want to find people that are excited to get their numbers and hit their goals. Because if you have someone it's halfway through the month and they're supposed to write 20 and they've got 4 up there, they're going to see that. Everyone's going to see that number. There's some kind of public pressure that's happening where they don't want to have a 4 on the board, when their coworkers are at 15 or 17. They're going to come in and they should work a little bit harder, to get their numbers. This will help identify people that are competitive and that are good at chasing numbers. If they're okay with having a 4 on the board all month, that's a red flag. All right. You want people that are going to be hitting their goals. And if you make it public, it's going to put that a little bit of added, hopefully good pressure on them. We all have bad months once in a while, and that's fine. But you want someone that finds gratification in updating their numbers. And every day when they sell something, they go up and they update their number. But having numbers in front of salespeople, for me, is a great way to have it always front of mind. You know, you always want them looking and chasing for new business. That's how we grow. Okay. So if you can do all these things and do them successfully, you know, these are the things that I have found that creates a really successful team. People ask me all the time, they're like, Matt, how do you handle a book of 4,200 policies with just 2 people? And this is how I've done it. Okay. This is 17 years of making mistakes and really fine tuning my operation so that people are doing the right job at the right time efficiently. So that's what it comes down to for me. So that's what I got for you guys. I got some time for you. I'd love to do some Q&A because I think there's definitely be some benefit there. If you guys want to hit me up, I'm here for you. So Ryan, do I focus on policies versus premium? I mean, that's a good question. For so many years, as you know, policies were the way we were measured by farmers. You know, they were measuring us. And now that the bonus and the way we get paid has gone to premium, it's taken me some time to adjust to tracking premium. I don't think there's a wrong way to do it. I think we kind of know what our average premium is, and you can work it out that way. So if your average premium is whatever, $1,000 or something like that, and you want to write $20,000 worth of premium, and that's the goal, then you can do either or. You can say 20 policies or 20,000 worth of premium, you know. So whatever you feel is best for your agency, I think will work. So compensation, that's a good question. I'm in a low premium state. This is something that we get asked all the time, is like, how do you pay your people? Well, I pay a real heavy base because I'm in a low premium state. And if I get someone that sells 20 policies a month, they're really only going to make me like $1,500. And so even if I did 100% commission, I can't pay someone a living wage, you know? So I pay my people to start the equivalent of $3,000 a month for base. And I haven't brought on anyone new since like the pandemic and since the Great Resignation. I have a hunch that number may have to increase to attract good talent. But what I would tell you is to do some market research in your area and find out what your competitors or your peers are paying their team. And if you can, I would try and pay a little more. It's going to attract, because you get what you pay for with anything, but you get what you pay for when it comes to your team. When I first started, I was paying $12, $13 an hour because that's all I could afford years ago. And then as I was making more money, I increased my base, and I immediately attracted a higher level of employee. And so as far as my producers go, Monty, he gets the same. He gets a base of 3,000. I think it's a little bit higher now because he's gotten some raises. He's been with me for 5 years, but I started paying him 10% commission on what I make. So it wasn't a lot. And last year I bumped that to 20% because he's doing really well. And I gave him a choice. I said, do you want to make 20% commission, or do you want $1 an hour? And he did what I hoped he would do. He ended up doing, he took the extra commission. That's what you want your salesperson to do. You want them to be paid based on performance. And so he took so he makes 20% commission on what the agency makes. And I also pay him like 0.5% of renewals because I want them to be conscious of not losing business. So I give them a little piece of that. And then if we hit our bonus, if we hit 50% of our bonus, they each get $250. And if we get 100%, they each get a $500 bonus. So that's how I paid my people. Okay.
I have a question, Matt.
Yeah.
So we have a total staff of 4. So Teresa, she's the owner, and she's my mother, and I work for her as her office manager, producer. And we have two girls, one part-time, another full-time, and we have a really, I think we struggle in the service area where we really try to delegate service and sales. Myself and another girl are more for sales, and then we have someone for service, but we still end up taking so much time working service, and then the sales lack. And I know that you have one person for sales and one for service, and he picks up a little bit here and there, but how do we, I guess, fix something like that?
How do you not?
I'm sorry. One thing is we are monoline auto, because I had a lot of auto when I started. And so we try to cross sell, but most of our business is auto.
Well, what kind of service work is being done that you guys are kind of being overrun with?
Just the basic things of lots of billing,
Right.
changes. Right now with the rate increases, we're doing a lot of rewriting, and it takes up a lot of time.
Yeah. So I've had some conversations with some agents about this recently, and this is something that I've had to put some thought into myself. And I actually had an agent send me a couple of staff members from out of state to shadow us actually last week. And so it was kind of eye-opening to see, because they were doing the same thing. They were doing a ton of service. And so they came in here to monitor what we were doing. And so the question that I would ask you is that this is the service that you're doing. Are you over servicing? And I know that's kind of a weird thing to ask, because service is something that's really, really important. Like we want to be giving the best service, but are we spending too much time servicing? Are we doing things in our agency that if we stopped doing them, the clients wouldn't care? And that's something that I would have you think about. For example, there was a period of time where I was going through my whole book of business, and I was sending, because we took some rate increases, and I was sending out emails to everyone who was renewing, and they were like personal emails. They're like, "Hey, Mr. Smith, your auto's going up 12%. This is why. Here are, 3 ways that we can lower your premium." And I was spending so much time working on these renewals, like 3-4 hours a day, but I wasn't getting any responses back from any of them. And I was like, well, then why am I doing this if I'm not getting any responses back? So I stopped doing it altogether. And I don't think it made a difference at all. I'm not telling you to ignore your clients. That's not what I'm telling you. But this agency was doing the same thing with all of their commercial renewals. They have something where they send out like a questionnaire and to update their account to all their commercial clients every time they renew. And so they'd send out like this 2-page robust questionnaire, and they'd send them out, and then they would chase them, and they'd spend, dozens of hours a month on something like this. And I asked them, I said, well, what if you stopped doing that? Do you think it would make a difference? Do you think your clients would notice? Do you think that people would leave you because of that? And I think the answer is no. I think you can reduce that one task to a simple email. Maybe you email these clients and you say, hey, your policy is renewing. You're going to get it in the mail. If you have any updates, please let us. It could be a stock email that you send out. It can cut that time by 90%. You're still getting in front of them, but those are some things that I would ask you, like, out of all the processes that you're doing, are there any that you can drop so that won't make a difference in your retention? One thing my district manager told me last year that was really important for me is he said, Matt, I had an agent, and he was the worst agent. He was the worst agent. Like, he was never in his office. He didn't return phone calls. He didn't do anything. He said his retention was 84%. He said, what's yours, Matt? I said, well, mine is 89. He goes, that's only a 5% difference between like the worst agent, you know, and someone like you. He's like, so I want you to think about that. And I did. I was like, because I was really concerned about servicing and being there and getting to know all my people, but my book is too big. I can't know 6,000 people. I can't, you know. Another thing that someone told me was, because I was going through that period where I was like, you know what? I feel like I need to know all of my clients, but it's impossible. He said, Matt, this marketer I worked with said, Matt, you don't have to know all of your clients, but they have to feel like they know you. And that's where things like BombBomb and MailChimp, which is what I use to send out emails to my whole book of business. If you can be in front of them that way, they feel like they know you and you do not have to know all of your clients. So I would just ask you to kind of maybe audit. One thing that I tell agents to do if they're drowning in time is do a time audit and spend a week and tell your team every hour to write down what they've done every hour for a week. And it's going to be really, really telling because you're going to find out the real work that they're going to be doing. And I think you're going to find some gaps where you can consolidate some time. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
sure. What else? So Jason, do I use any other CRM? You know, I use Agency Zoom for what we use it right now. I don't think I'm using it to its full extent because I don't buy leads. I think it's a great program. If you're buying leads, you've got to be able to stay in front of people. You have to be able to chase people, and that has an automated way to do that. And then when you do onboard somebody and they do convert, Agency Zoom is great because it has some automations during the prospecting phase. So it'll help you chase them. And then when you convert them, you click a button and it turns on, you can build out an email campaign so that they get a welcome email, and you could send them 5 or 6 emails throughout the year to stay in front of them. It has a texting capability as well. So if you're buying a lot of leads, like you almost have to have either an Agency Zoom or an Agency MVP. I believe Apex is something that will be doing this for us as well. It's not as crucial to my business right now because we're pretty much referral right now. I don't buy leads. So I don't need a place to stick, 3,000 leads to chase them because that's not the way that I've built my business. But for newer agents who are choosing to go that way, those are both MVP and Zoom are both great. They're pretty affordable, and they'll do what you need them to do. Or you can go the free way and use Apex. The only thing I don't like about Apex is I like to write my emails in my own voice, and Apex, the automation is in Farmer's voice. And I like the control that I can have. I like my voice better than Farmer's voice. So that's all. Yeah. Let's see. You guys got any other questions? What's up, Ram? Yeah, when you're using MVP or whatever, like there's some people, so MVP and Zoom, I know there's some farmers agents that are agents right now and that I think they have visions of going independent. Okay. I have no interest in that. But if that's something that there are some agents out there, it's all about keeping and controlling your data. So if you use Apex and you go independent, you'll lose all of that data. If you had MVP or Agency Zoom and you go independent, you bring all that data with you. And so I've heard that case. But yeah, duplicating stuff can be cumbersome. It just depends on what your goals are in your agency, things like that. So I don't want to go independent. I can't imagine starting over. I have a recurring nightmare about starting over again. I don't want to do that. So, all right. Do you guys have any other questions? Cool. Was this good, you guys? Was this helpful? Did you get some ideas? You guys are going to get, like I said, in about an hour, when I close this out, you're going to get an email and it's going to have a link in there. Please click on that link. You're gonna be able to download all kinds of stuff that come right from my course. Also for you guys, there's going to be a coupon in there. If you guys want to do anything within agency launch, you guys are going to get 20% off for being here, for being my test subjects today. So thank you. And so this was the first webinar that I've done in this style. Like I said, I wanted to give it out to you guys in my community first, give me a shot. So if you guys have any feedback, if there's something that I could have done better, please let me know. Tell me what you learned. That'd be helpful too. And I think that's it. So if you guys don't have any last questions, you guys know I'm available. You guys know how to get a hold of me. You guys know to hit me up on community or anyway. If you have any questions, I'm here for you. So I appreciate you being here today and spending an hour. It's good to see all your faces and names. And that's what I got for you today. Last chance. Anything else? You bet, Connor.
Thank you, Matt.
All right, you guys. Have a good day. We'll see you around the corner.
Thanks, Matt.
All right, you guys,
Thank
take care.
you.
You bet. All right, bye-bye.
Appreciate it.